music.
To the Untitled Movie Podcast. We're finally back after our Game of Thrones epic shows. And this one's gonna be pretty heavy, man. I don't see too many jokes flying on this one. This is Ava DuVernay's. I think this may be her best. I think this is better than Selma.
I mean, I would agree. I don't even know if we can compare it to Selma.
Because it's kind of When They See Us, Netflix original series, miniseries. Yeah. It's the highest watched Netflix show, I think, of all time now, or something.
Yeah, it's been number one for since it came out.
I mean, and my thing is, it ain't just black folks watching this thing. Obviously, if it's the highest in Netflix history.
No, I mean, everybody is watching it and everybody is interested, which is a good thing. You know, and one of the reasons I say we can't compare it to Selma is just because of the way it was released, and maybe, because Netflix is the new wave of, the way that we're going to watch things. But, Selma was a major motion picture. And everybody knows about Martin Luther King, and everybody knows about Selma. And so, I mean, in the Central Park jogger case, I was, 9, 10 years old. So this was not something that I was familiar with. So the story was brand new for me. So the hype around it really came from people being so interested in this story. Like, I don't know if I would have sought, a docuseries out about this story because I knew so little about it. But so many people are, intrigued by this that just by word of mouth, this is becoming so popular.
Yeah, it's, man, I don't even know where to even start, I guess. What was your overall thoughts? I guess we could start there.
Gosh. Yeah, I mean, it was heavy. I think you described it as it was so heavy, and I am admittedly a coward when it comes to some of this stuff. That's the reason that, I haven't gotten through 13 yet. And,
oh, you haven't finished 13? No. And I wonder if that's the reason that this got people liked it so much, because 13 was so good.
Yeah, I mean, we're trusting, Ava and her storytelling, but I haven't gotten through that. I have not watched Fruitvale Station.
That's hilarious.
The only reason, after I had to read the backstory first, because I'm like, everybody is talking about this. And
you hadn't noticed? You didn't know the story of Oscar Grant before
No, I'm talking about Central Park.
Oh, Central Park 5. Okay.
Yeah. So I mean, before watching this, I was like, let me do some research first and see if this is something that's going to depress me. And because I saw that there was some semblance of justice, I was like, okay, I think I can
handle it.
But I barely got through it. I mean, I was snot crying, and at first, I wanted to watch this with somebody, like my group of friends. We kept talking about we were going to get together and watch it, and I couldn't wait anymore. And I'm so happy I was by myself because that was some ugly crying.
Man, I'm a grown man, and I was up in there bawling, man, it was heavy, man.
Yeah.
And you think about all the stuff they went through for that whole time. It's just wow, man. But so let's start out, I guess, the first night, the night of the event.
Yeah. Because she just kind of jumps right into it.
Yeah. She didn't give she just showed them, I guess, that day what they were doing earlier that day, and then you jump right into the interrogations and the incident.
Yeah, and there's very little backstory for all of them that's told at the beginning. We kind of learn it as we're going through the interrogation and the trial and the aftermath, what their history is. And because I watched it a couple weeks ago, and since then I've been trying to read, the interviews and recaps and looking back at the PBS special that came out,
Did you watch that?
I did not watch the special.
It's pretty good.
I just watched, an interview that was done after the special in 2013. And so now I'm trying to remember, what did I see and When They See Us, and what have I learned since then from these interviews? And and even the Oprah interview that just, came out last Friday. But, I don't know if it's that important because it's all, a telling of the overall story. But I'm saying that to say that I've learned so much more, even after watching the film, about who they were before. That interrogation, it's angering and it's sad. You know, what could these young men have been if this did not happen to them?
I mean,
and during the last episode with Corey, you know, he kind of goes through this montage in his mind of, you know, what if I just stayed at the restaurant with the girl I was flirting with?
Yep.
You know, how would my life have changed?
One of the few times that going after some coochie will help you out, man. Right. Most of the times it gets you in trouble.
Yeah.
This time it would have saved your life.
It would have saved him. Right?
Yeah. It saved his life almost. It was angering to me because it was like, man, you know people, and how many other people in these situations like this where they're falsely accused. Did you ever see Strong Island? It's not Strong Island. The one where Lakeith plays the guy that got wrongfully convicted for murder.
No, I have not.
It was on. It's on Amazon. Mm-hmm. I'm trying to remember the name of it. I watched it on the airplane.
I mean, these wrongful convictions are not anything new.
But I'm saying, but it seems like it's a lot that they messed up with in the 80s and 90s.
Yes.
Like in the 70s probably too. They just able to track these down from DNA and stuff from the 80s and 90s.
I mean, that's why the Innocence Project is so important. Oh.
And it's another one too that's like a religious one. I forgot the name of the other one that's like the Innocence Project. Mm-hmm. I think it's run by Methodists. But the movie I'm talking about is damn, I'm trying to look for it now for everybody to check. Crown Heights.
Okay.
That's the one where he plays a brother that wrongfully convicted for murder, and his boy basically loses his marriage, everything to try to get his boy out. Oh, wow. And Nami Asomar plays his boy.
Okay.
Kerry Washington's husband.
Okay.
Which I didn't even know he was an actor.
I didn't either.
Yeah. He did good too, though. He was good in it. So yeah, it came out. It's on Amazon Prime for people if they want to peep it. I know it's on Prime.
Okay.
But man, so the night that all this happens, we talked about this a little before. Do you think that it went down as innocently as they were saying, or you think it could be?
I don't think it went down as innocently as they're saying, because I think that there were some truthful confessions that they gave about some of the ruckus and rioting, you know, that they were messing around participating in. I don't think that not telling that piece of it takes away from the story. I don't know. I kind of had mixed feelings about it, and like whether or not they should have covered that. But this is Ava's telling of their story, and I'm fine with the way that she told it. Yeah,
I'm like, hey, Ava, let them cats live a little bit. I'm cool with them living. So, hey, if they weren't innocent, oh well.
I mean, especially since it doesn't justify what happened to them.
Yeah.
You know,
but some people would justify it in their head, though. That's why.
Let's say that there were some kids today, you know, that are throwing rocks at bikers. Okay. Are they going to be deemed rapists and sent to prison for 5 to 10 years and have their entire futures destroyed? No, that's not the sentence that they're going to receive. So, you know, that may have, I don't know if it would have taken away from the story or helped it. Because, like, I don't know if it would have had an impact one way or the other. I'm fine with her not showing that piece.
I mean, it's the stigma, too, I guess, of it all. Is one of the things of, like, you're a rapist.
Yeah.
Like,
oh my God. Yeah.
Like, I mean, even fast forward a little bit to the third episode when dude was out on a date with the girl.
Yeah.
And she was like, yeah, I know you probably raped that white woman anyway. You're like, damn.
Oh, she was being ridiculous.
Yeah, I'm like, yo.
Is that the one that Antron was on a date
with?
Yeah.
Antron, yeah. Okay. Yeah, he was on a date with her.
Oh my God. She was just bogus. But you know, they say that even prisoners or criminals have a moral code, and you know, rape is the second worst thing you can do.
And he's behind child molesting.
Yeah, next to being a pedophile. So, you know, that just having that charge, affected them their entire lives, you know, even in the prison system.
So they get in there for their interrogations. We looked it up. I guess it's not illegal to interrogate a kid as long as you read them in the Miranda rights. Now, the coercion is where you can have a little bit of discussion about.
Yeah, I mean, and that's really what got them, because we know that there was no physical evidence. You know, there were 2 pieces of DNA that they covered on the show. There was DNA from her cervix and then DNA from a sock. Mm-hmm. and neither of those matched the boys. And then you had their confessions, and that's what was the nail in their coffins. And there are only three ways that you can throw out a confession to a crime. One is if it's unlawful, meaning they weren't read their Miranda rights.
Okay.
So in this case, it appears that they were. Two, that it's privileged. That's another way to throw out a confession. And privilege means that you have made the confession to somebody that the law deems your confession to be protected by. So a priest, a doctor, your spouse.
Why is spousal
these
open?
are deemed to be highly confidential relationships that the law protects.
So that's the whole idea that your spouse cannot be brought up.
If you are married and you make a statement to your spouse, there's a spousal privilege.
Then they can't bring her on the stand, right?
Right.
Like necessarily,
Correct. Now
okay.
your spouse can choose to break that privilege.
Oh, okay. Okay. So she can still get me.
If she does not want to testify, the court does not. The court cannot require her to. And then the other privilege is, of course, with your attorney. So if you make a confession to your attorney, if you were to confess to me that you committed a crime,
mm-hmm.
I can't go tell the court that you confessed to me.
Dang, no matter what it is.
Right.
Like I could be like, man, I killed all them people in Georgia.
There are times that the law will permit me to share that information, but there's never a time the court can compel me.
Okay, they can't make you.
Exactly.
But you can go on your own and be like, yo, man, he's up here murdering all these kind of people in Kentucky.
Right. If it's because I'm trying to protect something future from happening,
mm-hmm.
but if you've already done it, it's been committed.
And I'm living my life, but I killed.
I can go share that, but then I'm violating my ethical rules.
Okay.
So, there's a lot that goes into that.
Have you had anybody tell you something crazy like that where you had to keep it confidential? No, you don't have to say what it is. But
I'm not even going to share that.
Damn, that's how confidential it is. God damn.
I respect my attorney-client relationship.
Okay, all right. Look at you, lawyer.
I'm not even going to say anything that can make you guess who or what I'm talking about.
Okay. Well, then the answer is yes. Then people, before y'all ask, the answer is yes.
I ain't saying no. The other way to throw out a confession, the third way, is if it's involuntary or coerced. And so that's the way that the boys' attorneys tried to keep out the confessions here. So we know from the film and from information that you can find now that they were questioned for almost 2 days.
Yeah, that was crazy, like 36 hours or some shit.
I think it was more than 48. So the attack happened on April 19th. Their
mm-hmm. confessions
didn't happen until April 21st. So damn. I believe that they were detained on the 20th. So, it's almost 36 hours that they're sitting, no food, no drink. I think they may have had a bathroom break. But, and we're forgetting these are 14, 15, 16-year-old boys. Most of them who do not, some of them who did not have their parents there with them.
Mm-hmm.
We learned later on that Corey had a hearing problem as well as, an intellectual learning disability.
Mm-hmm.
He even, says in the docuseries that he couldn't read. And they just want to get out of there, and they're being made promises by the police. If you just say this, if you just say that, if you just give us this,
we'll get out of here. We'll get you out of here.
And they are, confessing to the things that they actually did engage in, the rioting and maybe some of the assault,
the horse playing and all that.
Yeah, the wilding. They're confessing to that, and then just so they can get out of there. What do you want me to say? They didn't know each other, which is I found very interesting. That they didn't know each other. So what do I need to do to implicate this other dude? I'll say, I was there, just so I can get out of here. And you're telling me that that's all I have to do to get out of here.
Then I'm going to try to do it. I'm
right.
like, oh, cool.
But the thing is, 3 weeks after they made these confessions, they tried to retract them. So it's not like they waited until they got to trial. They knew that they had confessed to something that they did not commit, crimes they did not commit. And they tried to retract them. And so the judge, went through his analysis of whether or not these were involuntary or coerced confessions and deemed that they were not. And that's a very subjective analysis. And when you think of involuntary or something being coerced, you think of being physically threatened.
Right.
And I've seen in some of the interviews, and then we saw in the docuseries that they were physically assaulted.
Mm-hmm.
So that to me is
Kevin was blumped up.
Right. Yeah. So for you to physically assault me or threaten me, and
And they're 14. It ain't that hard to threaten them, get them scared.
Exactly. But it's a very subjective analysis, and one that went the wrong way. In this case, and you see even without use of having. He didn't do a videotaped confession. I think he did the written statement. Mm-hmm. But even what the other boys said about each other was enough, and that's the only evidence here.
Yeah, and then the idea of like, you letting kids be there for this long, just to try to get somebody to say something.
Yeah. I mean, you really have to think about the political climate at the time. Like it was really a recipe for disaster. And at that time, I think DNA evidence was relatively new. Mm-hmm. And the way it was just the way that it was put to the media and the way the media ran with it too. So the police kept calling it inconclusive. Mm-hmm. And that is not true. I think one of the police officers described it as a thumbprint. So, like, if you put your thumb on something, then I put my thumbprint on something, then somebody else puts their thumbprint on something. Because so many people have touched this thing, it's now inconclusive. But, which is a way to describe what inconclusive means, but that's not what happened here. They knew that the DNA evidence, because there was the DNA evidence from her cervix and the DNA, and then the semen found in a sock. They knew that it came from the same
How did the semen get in the sock, though?
I think he ejaculated into the sock.
Wow.
So, but what they did
that's
know
weird. That's weird. I mean, the motherfucker's weird in general, but go ahead.
Yeah, but what they did know is that this evidence came from the same person. So even if the cervical DNA was inconclusive, they knew that it had come from the same person, and that person was not one of these 5 boys. So it was a complete misrepresentation of the evidence. That I wish I could go back and read a transcript and see how it came out. Because I can't remember the name of the attorney that Joshua Jackson plays, but he was completely taken off guard during the trial that this sock evidence even existed. It wasn't until the officer that he was questioning, or I don't know if it was a
no, it was the DNA. It was the DNA examiner. Yeah,
okay,
the medical examiner.
I wasn't sure who it was, but it wasn't until he said, "Well, we tested this other DNA." They even knew that it existed, which is also a violation of discovery rules. That should have been disclosed that this other evidence existed that could have exonerated them at the time. But even then, like that, I mean, that could have been played up so hugely, that the prosecution has withheld this evidence, and you've mischaracterized what it says. Mm-hmm. But
Linda Fairstein pushed so hard for that shit.
Right. But the confessions were so strong. So.
So then you have Linda Fairstein who's pushing for these kids. Like, well, they did it. We know they did it, but we just got to get them to say it. Yeah. And I'm just like, wow, like take a step back. And just thinking about all this before we just go hard on these 4 or 5 kids.
Right.
Like, I know that's an issue. I know in general they try to teach law enforcement don't get fixated on certain suspects. Because then you're just trying to find evidence to get that person because you're fixated on getting them.
Exactly. And that obsession and fixation made her ignore that they had the real person who committed this crime. His DNA evidence already existed. I think they said that he was arrested for another rape shortly after this. So they had
4 more rapes.
They could have tested it.
4 more rapes.
They could have tested it before these boys were even convicted and saw that he was the person that actually committed this crime.
But now, don't they just put you automatically through, like, if you get charged with anything and they get your DNA, they just put you up against anything that happens in general in that state, right?
I do not practice criminal law. I don't work with the police anymore. I used to. So I don't know the answer to that question. But,
some people got popped on, what is the one you did for, your ancestry or whatever?
What?
Your ancestry with your DNA.
I don't understand your question.
Like you get the ancestry DNA thing.
Oh, yeah. Oh, because they have it on file.
Right, but some people got popped for that. So they didn't call some people with that. Yeah.
No, you can't. I did my ancestry on 23andMe, and like a lot of people say that you shouldn't do that because now your DNA is on file, but whatever. I'm not bothered. I mean, people can get your DNA any kind of way.
Right, you can just take a cup, right?
Exactly. Take a sip of something at McDonald's, and they get your cup, and they've got your DNA. But I don't know if there's an automatic run. I mean, that would just be
That's probably too hard.
Astronomical. I mean, I cannot
cost,
imagine the cost and the time of doing that. But the thing is, some of the information that I read afterwards is that Matthias Reyes, like the way that he committed this was his MO. And there was another rape committed a couple weeks or a couple days.
It was a series of 4 of them that he did. Yeah,
committed the exact same way, and you don't look into this. I mean, it was so close in time.
Yeah, I know.
But they were so fixated on these 5, that they didn't bother to test it. And that is one of the things I think is most egregious in this, is that they didn't even try to look.
And other women got raped.
Yeah.
And died. One of them died. Because he gouged one out with like something in the eye or something. Like he gouged her out with...
Didn't he rape like a pregnant woman? And
and her kids were like in the next room.
Yeah. I mean,
and I'm like, yo, how did he even get in there?
Yeah.
He must have came in through a window or something.
He's an awful, awful person.
And he's got, I mean, my thing is how long, I mean, he knew that these other cats was taking that rap.
Yeah.
Because it was a high profile case.
Yeah.
So he's a sucker in general. Yeah. To let some other people go down for something like that. Yeah. So then we go to the next episode with the trial. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Is that customary for everybody to have 6 different lawyers like that, all running around at the same time? Like,
I mean, you can be represented by whoever you want to, and I mean, because they've all implicated each other, there's a conflict of interest. There's no way in the world that one attorney could have represented more than one of them, because representing both of them would be a conflict of interest.
Okay.
So in this situation, it was absolutely, it made sense for them to all have their own attorneys. And I can't remember which one it was, but only one of them had a district attorney.
What you call it? Antron, okay. Which was the one white guy.
Jackson?
Yeah.
So he was not a he was not a public defender. He
Civil Liberties, or ACLU or something like that.
So he was a private attorney who was paid by the state, but there was somebody else that had a public defender, and I can't remember who it was. And then, I should have.
Was it Corey? It may have been Corey, because Yusef had that guy that was a divorce attorney.
Yeah,
with Blair Underwood. That was Blair Underwood.
Okay, yeah, that's.
And then, then who had the one that had the
Latino one? Because he was.
But it was the African one. Mm-hmm. Who was that? Was Kevin's, I think.
Yeah, I can't remember. It's not that important.
Yeah,
but I mean, I think they all did the best that they could, and I can't remember whose attorney. I think it was one of their appellate attorneys. That, like, even Jesus Christ could not have won this case.
Damn.
Yeah, I mean, because it was already tried in the public. You got Donald Trump taking out
full page ads,
$85,000 ad calling for the death penalty. This was a political case. It was a very highly sympathetic victim, and a series of crimes that had been occurring in Central Park at the time, and they wanted to hold somebody accountable.
So the case goes through.
Yeah. Well, there's 2 trials. Remember?
Right, that's right. There's 2 trials. There's more than one, because 3 and then 2.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So Corey and Kevin were tried together. And then Anton, Yusuf, and Raymond were tried together.
I wonder why they decided how they split them up.
Mm-hmm. I can't remember from watching the docuseries why they decided to split it up that way. Because it almost would have made sense to try Corey and Yusuf together.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was surprised they didn't have them together. And then so the first trial. It's like they were like having hope, and it was crazy because on Oprah's thing, when Yusef was like, "Oh yeah, they got the verdict back. I'll see you in a little bit," telling one of his friends.
Yeah, he's really thinking he's gonna get out, because he'd been out on bail.
Yeah, so he was chilling. He was like, "I'm out here."
I was watching another interview that's talked about like how his mother changed his physical appearance because of, like, the threats they were getting while he was out. So I can't remember what but he said that, they were in hiding.
He was saying he was using wigs and stuff like that, or something like that. I was like, I guess that makes sense that you wore a wig.
They really trusted the system.
Yeah, they thought it was going to play out way differently.
Yeah. It's just disheartening.
Man, it was just. And then it's like even what's his name, Josh Jackson?
Joshua Jackson, yeah.
Yeah, when he was like, you do feel like, man, somebody's gonna step in here. Like his quote on Oprah was real. You like, okay, somebody's gonna have some you're like somebody's gonna have some levity here.
Right. I felt the same way when watching Detroit, which was another really hard one for me to get through.
I can't watch that one either.
Oh my god, you haven't watched it?
No.
Oh, it's hard too, and it's just like like. Look at the evidence. How can somebody not possibly find that these officers who trapped these young men in this boarding house, how can you not find them guilty? You just, I don't know. I've watched the movie 3 times, and every time I think the verdict is going to be different.
Every time?
Every time. Even though I know. It's just like it's hard to believe.
It was real disheartening, man, to because you're like, man, you know what? It's gonna happen. They gonna let them brothers out.
Right.
It's gonna be all good.
Yeah, and they're babies. I mean, who is it? Corey was 16. He was the oldest. Kevin and Raymond are 14. Anton and Yusuf are 15. Like, think back to when you were 14, 15, 16 years old.
Man, please.
And being charged with something like this.
It's just like them. I wouldn't know what the hell to do with my life.
Yeah.
Like, what am I supposed to do now?
Yeah.
I'm convicted of rape. Like, damn.
Yeah. Yeah, and then like at that age, I think it was Yusuf. He was like, what he said in the interview with Oprah. He was like, he was given 5 to 10 years. He was like, I can't imagine what what life is. Because at that point, like that's
5 years is like forever.
Yeah, they've been alive 14, 15, 16 years. Like 5 years is like a third of your life right there. So yeah,
and looking at the when they showed them all going for that 3rd episode and they're all going to prison, it didn't feel like it felt like okay, it felt like a little happier, even though they were in prison. I didn't feel like, oh man, they went through some crazy stuff. It was more of the effect of their family outside that I was more like, wow, like with Antron's dad getting sick and. Yusef's mom wilding out and like not wanting him to be cool with nobody.
Right.
Like she was like, fuck Kevin, fuck Corey, everybody.
Wouldn't even let him write the letter. Yeah, that's one thing that I appreciated the series showing. And I think Oprah talked about too is like they're not the only ones in prison here. They're not doing this by themselves. This affects everybody on the outside, and then once they get out, generations to come. We were just watching another interview with Antron. Or was it Kevin? No, it's Antron.
Antron, yeah.
Just how angry he still is.
Yeah, he's hurt,
and,
man.
It's affecting his children today and not letting them go outside and play because he's so worried about them getting picked up and accused of doing something.
And that's crazy.
Like, this is not something that is going to go away easily.
And it's even crazier because he is... You would think you think in your mind that it ends up a good story, like, oh yeah, he finally forgives his dad. He was like, no, I hate that motherfucker. I'm like, damn.
Yeah.
And I got emotional. I was like, damn, he's straight up like that man influenced him to go in there and say whatever, and he's never gonna forgive him for it. And I don't blame him to a certain extent, even though you want to be all buttoned up and be nice, like, oh, he forgave him. It's hard, man, to sit there and say he forgave him, like that. That's
being a father, can you imagine, like, convincing or trying to, what would motivate you to try to convince your child to confess?
And it was for me to keep a gig, too, some bullshit-ass parking lot gig. Fuck that gig, man. There's no way possible I could see myself doing that. But it showed his selfishness in general because he just then came back home.
Right.
He just went out like, yeah, I got to work late. And then that late turned into like 3, 4, 5 months, 2 years because the trial went on for 2 years.
I think he was gone for even longer.
That's what I'm saying.
Because he came back, it looked like in the docuseries, just shortly before Antron was released from prison.
Oh, wow, because he got... And Antron talks about it because he got sick.
Yeah. Yeah, I lost my point.
Yeah, it's a hurtful thing, man, to see that, man. Like, that man is... And he does need counseling, though. Like, like that he said, like, he was like, oh, I don't need no counseling.
Yeah, well, as they show in the series, like counseling is a part of prison, but they would get kicked out of those counseling sessions for not confessing.
Yeah.
So I can imagine that, in addition to people already, kind of being turned off to counseling, and black people in particular, imagine like trying to participate in the process, and the only way you can is to admit to something you didn't do.
That's crazy.
Yeah, so I can really see how he's turned off to the process, because you don't trust people at this point. You don't trust anybody.
Yeah, why would you?
Yeah.
Why would you trust anybody at that point?
That's hard, but he definitely, I don't know, he needs to form a friendship with Oprah and like have her go to lunch with her a couple times.
You said a friendship.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I know what I was going to say earlier about the dad, because it made it seem like the police were pressuring him because he had been in some trouble too, and that he was somehow going to be impacted or affected if he didn't convince his son to confess. So there was a whole lot of selfishness to it too, because I've tried to put myself in his shoes and think
how
about,
he would feel.
Yeah, we'll wonder like what would motivate me to try to convince a friend or a family member to confess to something they didn't do. And the only thing I could come up with is like knowing you can't trust the system and thinking if you just confess to this lesser thing, you're gonna get a better time than if you fight. And that's still, even in that case, I don't. That's just the only thing I could come up with. But on top of that, imagine like being threatened with your own freedom being threatened as part of the process. And I think that it was very, very selfish motivation. But I maybe it's because I really like Michael, and I'm just trying to understand
what's going on with him.
Yeah, but I found myself really trying hard to empathize with his dad, and I couldn't.
And because he's a good actor, and you'd be like, "Oh man, maybe they all could figure this out at some point."
Yeah.
But it wasn't. Ain't nothing figuring out at that point. That's the key. Is that's none of that stuff's getting figured out.
Yeah.
And so they went the fourth episode, which is that's the killer one, man. That's the one I sat there, man, and like. What's his name that played that role?
Jarrell.
Yo.
Oh my gosh. He's just phenomenal.
Yo, that dude, man, especially like with the first scene when he's sitting there in his little suit from court and sitting there and the other dude like talking to him like, "Oh man, you back again?" And he's just showing him, he's like, "So you don't know the demo here?" He's like, "Nah." Like, he's 16. He don't know nothing about none of this shit.
What can you do for me?
I didn't know what it was going to go on with that. I thought he was going to try to rape him or something. I didn't know.
I think he did. So Ava talked about, I can't remember if it was in the Oprah interview or in another one that I was reading or watching, but she talked about how there were some really terrible things that happened to him.
That she cannot show.
That she just couldn't show. But you can imagine.
Yeah.
He's a 16-year-old kid who
and he's small.
Think was a part of a rape. Yeah, like you said, he's small, he's young, he's not the brightest, tool in the box. Yeah. I can only imagine the terrible things that happened to him.
Yeah, because I was like, man, don't tell me they finna rape that dude, man. Every time they was beating him up, I was like, don't rape him, just don't rape him. Yeah. Beat him up, don't rape him. Yeah. And the thing, everywhere he went, he couldn't get away from it.
He couldn't get a break. But one thing you and I talked about before we started this is that if this did not happen to him, they probably never would have been exonerated. If he had not been in there, if he had not, interacted with Matthias Reyes, he probably never would have confessed. Mm-hmm.
Because he realized, like, dang, man, him and Reyes seeing the dude, like, man, I see this dude, he's not even supposed to be in here.
Yeah.
I'm going to go ahead and, give it up. I'm already in here already for life. It don't matter. Mm-hmm. I might as well confess for, what I did with that situation.
Yeah. Can we just take a step back from the real story just for a second and talk about Jerome? Because I thought he was excellent in Moonlight.
Yeah, he was damn good in Moonlight.
Yeah, I mean, he just had a very short, time in the film.
But it was good. It was good.
Kid is so good. And he's the only one that Ava allows to play himself as a child, as an adult.
And that's key.
As an adult. And, I don't think she originally wanted to do that, but his versatility as an actor, I mean, it was just, he did an awesome job.
He killed it, man.
Yeah, he killed it. Did and they were talking about this in the interview with Oprah, but that whole time, like where he's laying on the floor wanting the just the air conditioner to work, I mean, like, it's symbolic in so many ways, but I'm like sitting on my couch sweating like, oh my god. And then when the vent finally starts working, I felt the breeze,
yeah, and he was like sitting there like, man, I'm like,
yeah,
wow.
And it was kind of like a foreshadowing almost of something something has to give.
And then it was kind of messed up the part where the cop that was trying to help him out.
Yeah. I was wondering if that was based on a real character.
Or they just kind of just made it. But my thing is like, it was kind of messed up. He gave him books and he can't really read for real though. What? Is that why he start making shooting basketballs? When you think like, where's like, man, I can't really read this shit. I'm done looking at the pictures.
Yeah. I don't know. I hope that he, at least tried. And I hope that was a real person because they made it seem like he just had no friend. I mean, he said that. Yeah, like that's the reason he wanted to be in solitary. Because this was just going to keep happening to him. He may have been murdered in prison, if he didn't, he didn't go to solitary. But solitary is hard, too. Like, imagine not communicating with anybody for years.
And barely any books or anything. You just sitting in there. Because remember, he was like, how many days I've been in? How long I've been in here? He was like, you've been here for a while.
Yeah, you don't even know the passage of time. Oh, yeah, it's just, Yeah, but the way Jerome played it, man. I like how he said he learned the role too. Was like he just walked the streets of New York with Corey Wise, and he said Corey bought him a pair of sneakers.
Of course he did.
Yeah, and he said, he was like, please don't buy me these shoes. He was like, no, this is what Corey does. Like he buys tennis shoes. You need to walk in my shoes, to.
Wow, that's right. They did say that right. They like. Yeah. And it's like he got all those inflections the way he talked. Like I did, like because he stutters a little bit, and he was like, you
can sense the confusion, just by the way he speaks. And it's really sad to watch that Oprah interview because he clearly has he's deeply affected by this still, and you wonder like how much of it has to do with whatever disabilities he had before this happened, and like this situation certainly didn't but I will say that there's a demonstrable difference between his demeanor and his presentation during the interview with Oprah, just last Friday, and the way that he was in an interview that we watched back in 2013.
Yeah, he's totally different.
Yeah, I mean he was more articulate and vocal. Still you can tell, affected.
Yeah.
By everything.
I wonder if he's just affected by seeing this. Right. I think he's maybe a little bit shocked, like, wow, all these people are really probably hitting him up and like.
I don't know. You just wonder like what has happened in the last 6 years, and the 2013 interview that we watched was before the settlement, and
True.
So you wonder, I can't remember who it was that was saying in the interview with Oprah that money could have a negative impact, that settlement money could have had a negative impact. You just wonder, like, what has happened since that time to affect
how many people been hitting them up randomly, like.
Yeah, like, oh my God. Especially since, like, I don't think, you see $41 million settlement, and you're thinking that's what they all got, and that's not true. They have
Corey got the most.
To pay. Well, yeah. So Corey got, I think, $13 million, and the rest of them, I think, got around $4 or $5 million.
It's $1 million for each year.
Okay.
It's $1 million for each year that they spent in jail.
But still, they have attorneys to pay. I'm not sure what their fee arrangement was with their attorney. This is one I would have taken on and settled for nothing. But let's say that it's your normal third that attorneys take. They didn't take that much money home.
Yeah. At the end of the day, after you really break it down, they really did.
Right, but I can see the outside looking in, people like, oh, you got $40 million. What you gonna
Dang, man, come on, you gonna help out the homies?
Yeah.
And I know you've been in jail for a while, but we got to eat here too, though.
Yeah, and then we know that Corey gave, I think it was $100,000 to the Colorado Innocence Project, which they renamed the Corey Wise Innocence Project,
which is dope.
I wonder why he picked Colorado, but one is just as good as the other.
Yeah. It doesn't matter. It's all love, what they say.
Right. Yeah.
But man, that was so hidden with Corey, man, because man, I was just crying, like, dude, like being 16.
Yeah.
And
how many years did he serve? 11?
13.
13
years, man.
Yeah. Ooh.
13 years, man. And you ain't do this shit, though.
Yeah. That's one thing that, I appreciate about all of them, because we know from reading other parts of this, that there were 2 other young men. I think maybe even 3.
Yeah, it's another one, Lopez.
Yeah, Stephen Lopez.
He copped out to beating up some other people earlier.
Okay.
And
so
he did a year.
Arrested along with them.
Right, but he didn't cop out to any of that. He copped out to like beating up some people. People that was the skirmish at the beginning where they were all beating up on somebody in that little area up under the bridge. He copped to that.
Okay.
And he got a year and a half to 3.
Yeah.
In jail.
Yeah, but you think like, especially young men, boys really, if they really did this, at some point you think they would own up to, but they all maintain their innocence throughout.
Like, I didn't do this, man. Like, I didn't do this.
Yeah.
Let's go back a little bit to the third one. What do you think about Raymond's setup? Like how he kind of got into the game, basically.
Other than that actor being fine.
I know. Okay, that's fine.
Oh my goodness.
Dasha Polanco paid his mom. Shout out that her.
Sorry, I gotta look up this actor real quick.
Yeah, his Instagram is popping now though.
I'm sure.
No, I realized that because I was like, he doesn't have a Wikipedia page, so I was like, let me see his Instagram. I was like, this dude got like 17,000 followers or something. I was like, what? I was like,
one of them.
you said he's gonna find out if it's 17,000.1.
Yes. No, it was sad. It was very, very sad and hard to watch, and I think that they showed the impact even after they served their time pretty well on everybody. But his was pretty hard because it seemed like no matter what he tried, he could not get a stable job, or he just could not hold it together, whether it was because his home life was unstable or whatever. But walking around having to register as a sex offender and a felon, what do you expect your options to be
Yeah, that's
at that point?
like and like then like you can't be around kids, but kids that are
related
relatives
to you. Yeah.
So I'm like, that's almost impossible.
Right.
I can't go I'd be around a kid if I just go get on the subway.
I mean, he probably shouldn't have been in that house because wasn't she taking in random kids?
Yeah, she's taking the random kids in too. Yeah, technically, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that was hard to watch. Because, that's really what you expect to happen with all of them. But the other ones seem to have a little bit more solid
family
support.
Yeah, solid family situations.
Yeah.
Even Antron, even with his father, he still has mom holding him down.
Yeah, and then he changed his name too.
Yeah, what's a Brown? Yeah, it's a Brown. Yeah, because I was like, I guess they said this is his. So I'm confused. Was that his real dad?
I'm not sure.
Because in the interview we were just listening with New York Times, there he was saying that he had his mom's name, which was McCrary, I guess.
I thought he had his mother's maiden name.
Right. But then she got married and they went to Brown, but he never used Brown. He used McCrary.
Yeah.
But that's what was making me wonder if that's his stepdad, though.
No, I think that's his dad. I think she just married him.
Later on. Yeah. Okay. And then, the whole situation with Yusef seemed like he was pretty stable. His mom was just real protective of him in general, but it seemed like he was pretty stable coming out.
It just seemed like they had more supporting connections, too,
when
they came out.
Yeah, same thing with Kevin, too. I feel like he had his sisters and stuff, that was an ill thing when she was telling him the story about the rental car place.
Yes. Yeah.
I was like, dang.
Yeah.
She said she ended up going on a date with him, right?
She did. She did finally go on a date with him, but she was saying she just felt guilty in enjoying life, knowing that her brother was in prison because of her, partly because of her.
Because what she told him to go?
She signed the statement.
Right. That's right.
Yeah, and I just kind of want to go back to the
yeah
too, and because I think about being a juror on that trial.
That's what I'm saying. Right? How do you sit there and not want to hang that jury?
Yeah, or being the attorney trying the case, and since the only evidence they have is this confession, what did the jury think about their statements being inconsistent within themselves, inconsistent with each other, but most importantly, inconsistent with the facts? And I'm not sure if this was a time when people just didn't understand or have experience with false confessions. I think that we now know a little bit more about it.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if you saw Making a Murderer.
Yeah.
I'm more alert to it now. And I don't practice criminal law. But even now, like when I'm, doing a civil investigation and I hear that somebody has confessed to, something, I'm like, let me look at this.
Let me check this out real quick.
And understand the circumstances and look exactly at what they said. Like, it's one thing for you to call it a confession, but what exactly are they saying happened? So I would have had a hard time, like, sitting on that jury and ignoring that.
Yeah, that was the thing of like, but there's so many, but like you said though, the media had fucked this up from the beginning, and people already came in like, oh, we getting these boys.
Yeah.
It was hard. It was hard for people to be, unbiased and look at all the evidence when they're sitting there ready to go for it. So, tidbit for people. So the one that played Raymond, the girl that played Raymond's girlfriend. Mm-hmm. That's Aurora Perrineau. That's Harold Perrineau's daughter.
Oh, really?
That's his daughter.
Oh, wow.
She's also the one that blew the lid on Harvey Weinstein too, I believe.
Oh, wow.
I think it was her. Like she had some incident with Harvey. Yep. With no, it's with Girls with Lena Dunham, the writer from Girls.
Oh.
That she got into it. She had a situation with.
Altercation.
Yeah, Murray Miller's his name. I knew it was something along those lines, but.
Is his wife Hispanic then?
No, she's white.
Oh, okay.
She's white. He's been with her like years.
She's very pretty.
Yeah. She's got that look where she can play a little bit of anything.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember the girl that played Kevin's sister. Where is she? She was in something else.
She was in something else, and I looked that up.
I looked it up before, and I was like, oh yeah, she was in that, and I can't find out.
Kylie Bunbury.
Yeah, that's it.
Name.
Yeah.
She's very pretty. She's actually pretty close to the real one. She looked fairly similar.
Oh, the sister. You looked up the real sister.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, she did an interview that I saw on, I think it was 2020 or Nightline.
Oh, it's Game Night. That's what she was in. Oh, did you ever see Game Night?
I didn't get through that movie.
That movie was hilarious to me. That movie was funny.
I was watching it on the airplane and kept falling.
Man, that movie was funny, man. Hannibal Buress and her as a couple, as the black unwitting couple, was funny to me.
Hannibal Buress was in that movie.
Yeah, he played that was her husband was him.
Are you sure?
Yeah. Game Night is the one.
I don't think Hannibal Buress is in that movie.
You're not. Oh, am I thinking Tagged? No, he's not in that. That's wrong.
Lamar Morris.
Yeah, Lamar. That's him.
Morris.
Yeah,
Okay.
Lamar. That's a horrible name. Shout out to Lamar.
We said there weren't gonna be no jokes on that.
Yeah, but I mean, hey, can't be too serious.
Yeah. No, she's beautiful. And I thought she did a great job.
Yeah. I mean, she did a good, like, telling that story and like. Mm-hmm. And like Kevin's still sitting there looking still super young, and it's like, yo, he's in jail, yo.
Yeah. And that actor was really good too. Everybody did an excellent job.
Yeah, Niecy Nash killed it too.
She did.
You know that the family was mad at them for that. That was because of her portrayal of the mother.
I thought that she connected with the mom.
Yeah, but like I guess the one of the one that's and we can talk about acting that in a second, is Corey Wise's sister was dying as transgender. His little sister said that wasn't how she was at all. But this is the caveat in it, is that she was born the year he got locked up. So you don't know how she was acting. She got saved when you was 5-6 years old. So you was...
Right. You wouldn't even know.
Yeah, you wouldn't know how she was kind of rocking before that, treating Corey before that.
Yeah, and I would imagine that some of the background for how she played her
came from her. Yeah.
Came from
her. I didn't even think about that.
Came from, other people. Because there were... People, they have been interviewed about this multiple times. So I also, going back to, Corey's behavior in this interview with Oprah, I wonder if it's just fatigue at this point. Like, how many times can you retell this story and just, like...
Keep reliving it and reliving
it. Y'all watch it and see for yourselves. Like, that's go back and watch one of the interviews I did before, because I'm tired of talking about this. However, if Oprah were interviewing me, I'd retell it as many times.
Oh, man, yeah, look at her, man, Oprah.
Yeah.
It seemed like everybody was like super like nervous being with Oprah.
Oh my god!
Yeah, it was funny. His older sister was transgender. It threw me off at first though, because he said my brother, and it threw me off because I thought I was like, maybe he's just saying that, like when he was talking about him at remember the time I caught you skipping school, and he was like, yeah, brother, and I was like, huh. I was confused at the beginning.
Oh, you didn't realize? Okay.
No,
So just to be clear to the audience, Corey Wise has two siblings who were born biologically male, who were both transgender. The one that was depicted in the movie,
and then a little sister that
Marcy,
but his real name was Norman.
Norman, yeah. And then another one apparently that was born while he was in prison, who is also now a transgender female.
Yeah. So, and then I was trying to look up how she died. Because I guess Corey doesn't talk about it. So
I was looking it up too. It just said brutally murdered.
Yeah, so I was thinking maybe somebody would have like some news in it or something like that, and nobody. Yeah. I guess it's under the assumption that she died because she was transgender.
Probably some form of discrimination.
Yeah, or some dude that found out that she was.
Crime.
Yeah, like some fuckboy stuff like that, man. But it was ill because it was like I had to sit back and pause and be like. That's some interesting aspects of his life. That the fact that he has a transgender and that he looked up to her. You know what I'm saying? Like he looked up to her like that, which shows maybe some deference in his personality, who he is, and how he accepts people.
Yeah, I mean, especially this is in the early '90s.
The late '80s. You got to remember that happened in '89.
Yeah. So
you got to think his sister was. They said she was already transitioning before that.
Yeah. At a time where it's,
Whoa, no. No. Nobody was acceptable of that. And it's funny at the same time because Niecy Nash killed it. Like, you think she's just funny all the time on Claws and shit like that.
Yeah.
And the best actors are people that are comedic.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, Eddie Murphy killed it in Dreamgirls. He was the best part of Dreamgirls.
Yeah. Yeah, no, she's Niecy Nash in her interview with Oprah. She said people who can make you laugh can also make you cry.
Yeah, because you gotta be, if you to be that funny, you gotta be crazy. I'm dead ass serious.
For you to be that funny, you really have to be digging from somewhere deep. And
it's dark.
And anytime, the funniest people are always the ones that are willing to be most vulnerable too. Like the funniest people, are willing to let people laugh at them, too, not just with them. So I can see how this was a good, an easy transition for her. Because the vulnerability was there. Yeah,
it was that was, and that for him to have that scene with his mother coming and she says she's saved and she can't come see him no more. I was like, wow, like he ain't got nothing, and he still wanted to be close to her. He took a transfer from the place where he was safe.
Yeah, that was nothing but retaliation because there are places closer to New York City that they could have moved him. But there, he's, in some of the situations he really is trying to move to be safe.
Yeah.
But, they're going to take this as an opportunity to move him further and further away from his family. There's just being punitive in so many ways against this kid. It's just heartbreaking.
Man, she was like, because she said basically she couldn't come back and see him, right?
She said she couldn't take it. Like, it was too far already. Yeah. She couldn't afford it. She had nothing else to give. I mean, she was defeated.
Yeah.
She was so defeated.
And she said, I'm saved now. I'm going to pray for you. And Jesus, and he's like, I got to get close to her. Like, he just wanted his mom, man. And, and I was wondering where was Corey's pops around this time, Yeah, I mean, story of the world. Yeah. And man, it just, that dude killed it, man. I was sitting there crying, I cried like 4 times.
Yeah. I cried through the whole thing.
And it really, like I said, I really didn't start crying to the 4th one. Corey is the one that got me.
I think little Kevin got me early on.
Oh, because he was the trumpet player and all that. And
yes. He's just a baby. Stop it.
Yeah. And they beat him up too, though. And he's the only one they had.
That's one thing that I've seen consistently in the interviews, that people that describe him, like he was just such a sweet kid. Just like a very, very sweet kid. And
they had stole it from them kids, man. I'm just like, man, it was just that the Corey one, man. Yeah, that was, and I hope it was, like you said, I hope it was an officer or something that did take care of him like that. Because at first I thought he was when he found out his sister died and he was bugging out. I thought that he was finna take him down.
Oh yeah, and he just stopped and hugged him.
Yeah, and I was like, oh man.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, thank you. Some recluses feel like he wouldn't win for the shit. Yeah. He had no headway, it felt like, with anything. And I guess towards the end, I think maybe when he started saying fuck it, I ain't coming out, he started being more comfortable, I guess, being in there, and he seemed like he got a couple of friends. The montages started, wanting to be out in the public and things like that, and he just realized I ain't getting out because they just want me to admit.
Yeah, he's like, I'm not even gonna try to like go to this parole board and beg for my freedom anymore. Like,
they did that in the movie with the one I suggested everybody see. They did that to him too, though. They're like, yeah, you want to admit that you killed this man? He was like, no, I didn't.
Right.
Why am I admit to something? Like, is that a part of parole for? I mean, I didn't know that was a part of.
Part of it is taking responsibility for what you did. Like, you cannot. How can you be remorseful? Which is one of the main things that they're looking for. If you're not accountable, so you have to take accountability. Otherwise, what are you remorseful for?
Right. I mean, I just can't get out because I did my time.
You didn't do your time. You're trying to get out early. That's why.
Right, but they don't get in trouble. You know what I'm saying? Like, aren't those things into account?
Those are factors after, showing remorse and being accountable.
Damn. So wow, okay. I thought of more of like your.
I mean, like, think about when you punished Xander.
Mm-hmm.
And, let's say she lied to you about something.
Okay.
And she lied.
Right.
Like, before she can get off punishment, you want her to take some accountability so she doesn't do it again, right?
Right, okay. I see that. Yeah, like, come on,
not just like, you told me to go stand in this corner, so I stood in this corner.
Or I did my time. Right. Let me get up out of here. I still believe in what I did.
Yes, I'm still going to crawl on the wall again, but
I did my time. I did my time.
Yeah.
Ava Duvernay, she's something else, man. Yeah. I wonder what she's gonna do next.
Yeah. What are we gonna do next? I guess because that's one of the reasons why I think, like I said, I'm admittedly a coward with some of this stuff, because I know that it's gonna affect me. I know that it still happens, but what am I gonna do with it?
Like, after what do you do?
Yeah, other than I really was legitimately depressed probably 2 or 3 days afterwards. Just walking around, like, looking at people, like, just mad. Like, and knowing that your freedom can be taken away from you so quickly and so easily by a system that is supposed to protect us. Because it's actually designed against us.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's I can't remember who was saying, I don't know if it was in the Oprah interview, where somebody was saying, it's like, you can't call the system broken because it's functioning the way it was meant to.
It's doing exactly what it's supposed to do.
Keep us down. It's doing so it's not a broken system. It's doing what the people who designed it to do. So it's something that needs to be completely rebuilt. It's like the more and more I think about this, and now I'm just about to just show my vulnerability. What am I doing with my law degree? Like, there's so much more that I could be doing. And so that's kind of where I feel like I'm going to go with this.
Really?
Finding a way to get involved in some pro bono Innocence Project cases. Because this is not the only time this has happened. There are still innocent people in prison, and this is not the last time this is going to happen.
Yeah, it's, man... And just to think that there's cases piled on top of cases for the Innocence Project, I know, and stuff like that, where I forgot what show I was watching, where they had profile, I think it was on TV1, they profile people that were wrongly accused. Mm-hmm. And almost all of them were like the Innocence Project. Yeah. But it was like a 6-year waiting. It was like some crazy, like, it's so many people. It was like a 6 year like wait list or something, like, and people were like happy to get on that list.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, when I think about, like, when I walk into a case that's been in progress for a year, how much time it takes me to catch up, I cannot imagine wading through the evidence and interviews and, everything, trying to get caught up on a case like this, looking for usually a technical needle in the haystack, because that's usually what gets these cases overturned. In this case, it was a miracle.
Right.
Because they tried appealing and lost. Like, 4 of them appealed and lost.
Oh, really?
So, it wasn't like they didn't try something before Matthias Reyes came forward. But if he didn't come forward, they would be in the same place they were in 2002 when they were released.
It's Centurion Ministries is the other one I was talking about. Centurion Ministries is the other one that I was thinking about that was Methodist based. Yeah. Like, man, think about, like I said, think about all these dominoes had to come in effect, because if Corey did not go down there, he wouldn't have been implicated. But if he didn't go to jail, all the other 4 boys wouldn't have got off either.
Right. Yeah.
And to think he had to go through all that, and it's like he had to go through all that shit.
Yeah,
and he was like we said, he's the smallest, not the smartest.
Convicted of the least crimes.
So and got the most time.
Talk about that for a second. Actually, before we talk about the conviction, something else I wanted to say about the trials that was stuck out in my mind as a juror. These boys did not know each other before this.
Antron and Yusuf and Yusuf and
Corey
knew each other.
But the other ones didn't. So what in the world would make these other people that don't know each other participate in a crime like this together?
And we all just gonna rape this woman all together.
Right, like, hey, because it's the way that they were portrayed. Portrayed as the wolf pack and wild things or whatever.
Wild thing, yeah, wilding. It was wilding.
Like, and I'm not sure if the way that Linda Fairstein was depicted in the movie, calling them, I don't know if she called them monkeys or what.
She was like she's the animals. She's like the animals. Yeah.
So I'm not sure if that was accurate, but that is the way they were depicted in the media. So is that really what people think? Like, you're just like, come on, bro, let's just rape this one.
I don't even know you, but I'm gonna give me some too, though.
It's absurd to me.
And let's go and sodomize her too while we at it.
Yeah, there's no way in the world, like sitting on a jury, I would have believed this story. And there was a juror in Corey's case that almost hung the jury. Her name was Victoria Briers, and she did that interview I saw that it was either on 2020 or Nightline. And she said that is her biggest regret. 30 years since this happened, that still weighs on her. Because she didn't believe he had anything to do with it. But the rest of the jury convinced her to, go with them just so the jury wouldn't be hung. Because they would have had to retry this case all over again.
Yeah, because it would have been just that one. But you got to ride it out like Henry Fonda in 12 Angry Men. You got, what I'm saying? You got to be that last person if you have to be.
Yeah, but then you wonder, maybe if she didn't have a voice in that room, how much more time he could have gotten, because what he ended up being convicted of, he wasn't convicted of rape.
No,
he was convicted of, what was it? Assault,
simple assault and rioting. First degree rioting.
That was it. I think it was. Hang on, I just looked up his charges because he was convicted of sexual abuse and assault.
Okay.
And the others were convicted of attempted murder and rape. Like, you imagine if he had been convicted of those, how much rougher it would have been for him. So maybe her voice in that room, did do something.
Yeah.
Even though, not much. But, it's interesting that he was charged with the lesser offenses and ended up with more time just because he was a year older. Just because he was 16 years old. And you think about the difference between a 16 and a 15-year-old.
Ain't shit.
I knew you at 16, 15. There wasn't much of a difference.
It's not at all.
It's not much of a difference now. But.
Yeah. No, not at all. Like Yusuf, Yusuf, I wonder how did Yusuf and Corey know each other? They never went in. I guess there's neighborhood kids knowing each other.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I thought I read somewhere that they lived in the same apartment building.
Okay. Well, that makes sense. Because that it does make sense, because he was like, I don't want your mom being mad, and that was the killer part about his mom being so extra. Is the reason he went down is because he didn't want his mom being mad at him for not making sure he was straight.
Him. Yeah.
That was my thing.
So terrible, and and you can see the disconnect between the four of the younger ones that were convicted of juveniles and Corey, and that there is some resentment between them. I've watched a few interviews with all of them.
Well, they say it's 4 + 1.
Right.
So what do you mean? What do you mean? Like, you think that Corey resents them somewhat?
Yeah. So there, in another interview that I watched, the interviewer asked, "Are you all, you all didn't know each other well before this? Are you friends now?" And I think it was Yusuf or Kevin that said, "We're not friends, we're brothers." And then Corey piped up and was kind of like, I don't really see it that way because my experience was different.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And I think that I'm not sure how much they all speak to each other. I mean, a couple of them moved to Atlanta. I can't remember. Yeah, like
Antron and Ray live like 5 minutes from each other.
Okay, yeah. So it seems like a lot, like some of them keep in touch, but Corey is still in New York. He's the only one that stayed in New York, so he seemed
and which color too? Kevin's in Jersey.
Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, but you can sense the disconnect between them, and I think that he might be a little bit resentful because they got to stay together. In their experience, not that, it was, all fun and games.
Yeah, but it was a juvenile facility. And they got to go, they went to...
They took classes and got degrees.
Yeah, they got associate degree and everything, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and so one of the interviews that I was watching with Corey, they're describing their experience, and he's just sitting there snickering, like, you all are, taking classes, and I think it was Yusuf and Kevin became like seamstresses in prison, like they learned how to sew, and Kevin and Corey is like,
y'all crazy.
I'm speculating that he was, being sexually abused but beaten up regularly.
Yeah.
And in solitary. So, his experience was completely different. So it even seems like they had more opportunity than he did. And
he also I think maybe they're a little bit tighter now. It seemed like a little bit in the
Oprah interview.
Yeah. I think maybe they had some come to Jesus moment amongst each other, like, yo, like, honestly, if you didn't go to jail, we wouldn't be able to.
And it seemed like that acknowledgement meant something to Corey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, man, it was hurt. Man, that hurt me, man.
Yeah.
Just to think about, I mean, overall, kids and, like, people just really just jumped on it, like, fuck these kids, and, like, I just couldn't, man. I was like, yo, I can't do this, man.
Yeah.
I wanted to call it off. I was like, man, but we gonna do this shit.
Right. No, you have to finish it.
Now I tell everybody to see this, man. I mean, now, go into it, trip it. Maybe break it up.
Yeah.
Don't sit there for the whole 4 hours straight.
Yeah.
And try to watch it, unless you can stomach it.
That's what I did. And
you did?
I wish I had broken it up.
Yeah, I broke it up
because I was emotionally drained.
Yeah.
Afterwards, and physically from crying and snotting all over the place. It was hard to watch. But I will say that I'm happy that the story is getting the coverage that it deserves, because it makes us all pay attention and think about this stuff and how this is still happening. And one of the reasons we want to know history is so that it doesn't repeat itself. I'm glad that they were exonerated in 2002. I'm glad Matthias Reyes finally decided to come forward. I'm glad Bill de Blasio finally settled their civil lawsuit.
Yeah.
I think they said it was, they filed it in 2003. He finally settled it in 2014. It's crazy that it took that long for the state to take some accountability.
So why would a case take that long to go to trial? Or
you can draw a case out as long as you want.
Really? Okay.
Trying to get the evidence, really, and waiting for a trial date. There are so many reasons why a case can be pushed out that long, and I can imagine that it was very difficult for them to get the evidence that they were requesting from the city. I can't imagine that they were the most forthcoming. I can imagine that there was a whole lot of motion practice and arguing about what they were entitled to, and trying to find, witnesses that would testify that would be helpful in their case. Because basically, so they sued for malicious prosecution, discrimination, and emotional distress. Mm-hmm. The emotional distress is easy to prove, but the malicious prosecution, you intentionally targeted us knowing that the evidence you had against us was either false or, not good enough. That's really hard to prove. So I can imagine, they want to put their best case forward. And then it's political too. Which is probably why Bill de Blasio settled it. Michael Bloomberg was the mayor beforehand, so we knew that shit wasn't happening. But so they got their $41 million.
And then before that, we know Giuliani was before that, so we really knew that wasn't going to happen then.
Yeah, but then they ended up suing the state as well and settled that one for $3.9 million in 2016. So there was some semblance of justice, because and you can't even call it accountability.
No, I was like,
anytime you settle, it's just like, this is going to be the best way to make this go away. But there was never any specific accountability.
Do you think? Yeah, because they never apologized or anything.
Well, I think Bill de Blasio tried to make some political apologies, but still no specific accountability on behalf of the state.
Do you think it was better for them to settle?
Yeah, because just like I said, for the reasons I just said, I don't know if this was a case they could have tried. Malicious prosecution is really hard to prove. Think about what the word malicious means.
You intentionally wanted to mess with me.
Targeted me, which we can see, from the, what the documentary says. When you start trying to put the evidence on, that's really hard to recreate. And even now, people are calling for the Manhattan District Attorney, Cyrus Vance. I think he goes by Cy Vance. Calling for him to review the thousands of cases that Linda Fairstein, bragged about. I've never lost a homicide case. So, the after this documentary, people are calling for thousands of cases, and he said
why
he's
not
going to do it.
Oh, he said he's not.
He's not going to do it, and they're calling for Elizabeth Lederer, who Vera Farmiga played. She just resigned from whatever
Columbia. It was Columbia.
Columbia.
Columbia Law.
Linda Fairstein's publisher dropped her.
And she left Vassar College.
Okay.
From their staff as well.
Got it. So there's some ways that private institutions.
But it's too late. She had 20 bestsellers or whatever like that.
Novels? Yeah. So she's made her money, but Elizabeth Lederer still works as a district attorney, and Cy Vance said he's not letting her go either. So with all of that, the city itself is still not taking accountability.
And I'm like, dude, but it's all good. I mean, New York had that money though. Anyway, that was easily for them. They got the money. New York is going to start tolling people on the Brooklyn Bridge in a second, so
right.
They're fine. But man, it's so. What do you think that? Who do you think recovered the best after this? Yusef, I'm assuming.
Gosh.
Yusef and Kevin.
I don't know if you can even compare. And without knowing them personally, what they went through, or where they are now, I feel like I can't even make that call. Because I don't think this is something that money. I mean, they even said money is not something that's going to make them recover from this. I think the person that has turned this situation into the best platform is probably Yusef. He's a doctor.
Yeah, he's a public speaker going on Raw.
Kids, that's a lot of kids.
That's a lot of kids. I know you was only in jail 5 years, man. I can give 10 kids. You getting real ridiculous now, Yusef. This is irresponsible, Yusef. Just for the record, it's irresponsible, my brother.
I see it a completely different way.
Which way do you see it?
I mean, this is what I think it's probably a religious thing too. He seems to be supporting them, so I don't know how it can be seen irresponsible if he's supporting them, and it's one woman. Like if he had 10 kids by 8, 9 different women, that might be different. But this seems to be the family that he wants. So I appreciate the platform that he's created, and you can even tell in the interviews where he sees his brother struggling to answer questions. He tries to represent them well, and. Yes, I think he's done the best he can with a shitty ass situation.
Yeah, but he was also groomed a little bit more too, though. His mom had with the Muslims looking after him inside, and all that good stuff. So I mean, it was that Corey one, man.
Yeah, I hope that Corey and Antron go through some counseling.
Yeah, they definitely them two, man. And I'm not Antron's more. I don't even necessarily his experience in there. I think it's his experience of why he even in the first place with his dad.
Yeah, that's hard.
And his dad not being there during the trial.
Yeah.
And you put me in the fucking
you're
thing.
You're the reason I'm here, and you can't even show your face. Yeah, no, that's hard. And then we talked about the demonstrable difference between the interviews Corey did in 2013 and the interview with Oprah, but there was a difference between Antron too. He was definitely angry in that 2013 interview, but he's even more angry.
Yeah,
now.
He was like, I hate him.
Yeah,
damn.
And then he talked about how he doesn't even have his mother now.
Yeah,
that's
because he said he's got a lot of kids too. He got 6.
Yeah. I mean, and he's married now, so he needs to get himself together for his family now. And I know that that's something that a situation that he's never going to forget or never fully recover from. And his father is not alive for him to sort of have
going on
with him, but I think counseling still could help, and I hope that he seeks that help.
Well, I guess we can wrap it on up. Hold on, we do have an email though.
Okay. Before
we wrap it up. Let me grab that right quick.
While Daryl is looking for that, yes, I think everybody should see this movie. Black, white, Asian, Hispanic, everybody should see this movie.
I mean, it can't be just black folks watching this because we got all kind of people watching this. If it's the #1 show on Netflix, that's an awesome thing to even hear that's even going down like that. Like, wow, that's an awesome thing to hear.
And don't just watch it. Reflect on it. Think about how we get to shit like this.
And why?
Yeah. Yeah, it's the belief. I felt horrible for the way society treats black men.
Yeah.
I mean, I always do, but this was just like a glaring reminder, and it was just heartbreaking.
All right, this one is from Dark Scribe. He says, "I appreciate your movie, The Hate You Give."
Oh, we're back there.
The podcast I listened to actually thought it was a good movie. Daryl, I think you will find it interesting. I went to a lecture featuring the author Angie Thomas, and she stated that while growing up in Mississippi, she never experienced any type of racism. Really? What are your thoughts? Also, her next book will be made into a movie. Okay, George Tillman Jr. is directing it. I was wondering what we'll be doing. Will you be doing a review of If Bill Street Could Talk and maybe the classic Dead President? That's actually good.
We should do that.
That's actually good.
I appreciate those recommendations. Yeah. I actually just watched If Bill Street Could Talk a few weeks ago.
He says, "I know the general consensus was to keep the current name of your podcast, but how about Black Cinema Unfiltered?"
I like that.
We do need to come up with a show name at some point.
Yeah.
So yeah, shout out to you, Dark Scribe, man. Appreciate that, man. Yeah, that was my email, man. Okay. So now Bill Street Talk, that might be it.
Yeah. Yeah. Did you see it yet?
No, I haven't seen it yet.
Yeah, you gotta watch it. It's another hard one.
I know, but I know the colors look amazing. Cinematography looks amazing.
Cinematography is beautiful.
I heard the only reason that it did not win more is because he already won for Moonlight. That's what I heard. Some people have said it's better than Moonlight.
I don't agree with that.
Because the way Moonlight was shot so like gangster with like the.
Okay, if you're talking about cinematography, maybe. Just watch it and then I'll give my critique. I liked it. I enjoyed the movie, but I was left wanting more.
Is it because have you ever read the book? I've never read the book.
No, I have not.
So I wonder if it's lack of story in itself.
But I mean, I kind of felt that way with Moonlight too, where it just kind of ends.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah, and it's just like he's with dude at the what was it? When they just sitting at the restaurant and it ended like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, everything doesn't always have to be wrapped up with a neat bow, but. Yeah, it was just kind of like, okay, really? There could have been something more. But it was still good.
Yeah, it was good, man. Make sure y'all email us, landocalpod@gmail.com, and we will see y'all soon. Peace. Yeah, we do.